Is the Sixers and Knicks rivalry something we'll have to pay attention to this season? We'll talk about that and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now through September the 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hello, I'm Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell. We are the co-host of Locked On 76ers. We got a lot to talk to y'all about today. You know, it's the off season. This season is supposed to be all about the 76ers, the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks. These three Atlantic Division rivals are supposed to be the three best teams. But here's the deal, Mitch. When we talk about the 76ers and we talk about the Knicks, we remember last year with all the FNB chants in the Wells Fargo Center from Knicks fans. It seems like those chants have not subsided.
No.
Right? So who is it? Josh Hart.
Yeah.
And Jalen Brunson have a podcast.
Yeah.
And what happened? They had it at a location. And
man, you know where they had it? You know what they had it? They had it in Central Park.
Yeah.
So that's as New York as New York can get.
And those New Yorkers were in the back. New Yorkers were in the background chanting FMB, and the Hearts were egging them on. So the thing is, I asked you, is this a rivalry that is something that we're going to have to pay attention to this season? Sometimes I think those rivalries get a little overblown in an 82-game season. But this vitriol of Embiid,
is
this something to pay attention to?
I think it is. I think it is just because it's Philly and New York, and there are always rivalries. You know, there's always rivalries between the two cities. I mean, you can even go back to the days when Wilt Chamberlain and Earl Monroe used to go up to the Rucker League and wipe the floor with them, at the Rucker League. So, last year, the Knicks came in here and they were, I heard the chants. You were in the building. I was in the building. We heard those FMB chants, and apparently during their podcast, Josh Hart was egging the fan base on. He was, standing up, FMB, and personally, I think it's a good thing. I do. I think rivalries are always healthy in sports. I mean, we know rivalries aren't what they used to be. I mean, if like with Philly, we hate the Dallas Cowboys, but it seems like, when I was coming up, man, we hated Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, and Danny Ainge and ML Carr and all those guys. And obviously, their last season there was no first round series that rivaled the vitriol between the Sixers and the Knicks. And it's just natural, man. You're separated by 85, 90 miles. You're two cities that are known for basketball, even though, if you look at the line of players coming out of New York City, it's kind of tailed off. New Jersey puts out better players now, it seems like, than the city of New York does. I don't know what happened to basketball in the city, but it's just not the hotbed of basketball that it once was. But their fans were into it. And to their credit, they came down to the Wells Fargo and they set up the picnic tables, they set up their flags, and they ate 76ers, and they won. They won that series. So if I think it will be a reinvigorated rivalry. I really do, and I'm glad to see it, man. I mean, if you old school basketball, you want to see those rivalries between big cities. You in Chicago, Detroit, they've always had their rivalry, and then they're not nearly as close as Philly and New York are. So yeah, I think that rivalry's coming back.
Yeah, I do. It's one of those things where I say yes and no, right? And the reason why I say yes and no is because if you know the New York fans, they known for trolling everybody, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, they do that. It's
that's
funny.
good.
I mean, it's good, but it's like even if you go to YouTube, like, and after games, they go out there and guys act crazy, and they've been doing it
Please.
for years. So, I mean, for years, like, I mean, when they played the Miami Heat, they were killing the Heat, right?
Mhm.
But when it came down to Trey Young, they were, F Trey Young chance.
Right.
So it's good. The one thing is though, I feel like, right now Joel Embiid is the guy who they all hate.
Yeah.
It's great to say that. But I feel like until they come back to Wells Fargo Center, the Knicks fans,
Hmm.
they until somebody like, and I don't, I'm not promoting violence or anything like that, but until they get into a real scuffle in the stands with the fans and the fans put the foot down, then it's just like, yo, these just some rowdy New York fans stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it has to be kind of like, I don't know. I think it has to get up because you can say what you want and all this, and the fans could say it, but it kind of looked like the Knicks fans were just kind of trying to disrespect everyone from Philly,
Yeah.
and you got to fight back a little bit. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we're talking about basketball. Like,
Right.
this ain't football. This ain't
Right.
hockey. Like,
Right.
football, you say something to a linebacker, blah blah blah. Dude's going to try to take you out.
Yeah.
Hockey, what do? They know, like, they say, okay, we're going to take the gloves off.
Right.
Bop, bop, bop. Basketball, Josh Hart can stand up and egg the crowd on. He can do whatever. But what's the chances of Josh Hart and Joel Embiid actually getting into it? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to me, it's all about the fan bases in basketball.
Right.
Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, are you going to allow them to come down here and take over like they did, or are you going to fight back? Are you going to do stuff like that? And again, I don't condone violence. I'm not saying it, but to me, the player stuff ain't gonna say like even down to Thomas Robinson. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get him back. I'm gonna get him back." Like thinking Embiid did him dirty. Well, we'll see. We'll see because I'm telling you, in basketball, these dudes don't fight. They don't stand on business.
No,
As
they
the kids say, they
They-
just don't. But I guess it's good. It's weird because you look at Embiid. They hate him in Boston.
Mhm.
They hate him in Toronto. Now they hate him in New York,
They
right?
hate him in France.
They hate him in France. I mean, he must be doing something right. Like when they hate you and all, because that's how it used to be. Like people
Right.
forget they like secretly. Some people love Dr. J in Boston secretly.
Really?
They hated him. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
like we hated as a kid growing up. You hated Larry Bird. You talked about Kevin McHale's shoulders.
Yeah.
Robert Parrish, what's wrong with him? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
The
So
kid was Herman Munster. He was.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that's what that's how it should be. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And the reason why I said they pub because Dr. J was the guy. You know what I mean? But in Boston they went in Will Chamberlain. I don't hear too many people in Boston talking about how much they appreciated Wilt's game, right?
Right.
So it is what it is. But is it a rivalry? Yes. Is it something that I'm gonna like circle the schedule to see? I gotta wait to see I gotta wait to see it play out because it's 82 games. They play 4, so we'll wait and see.
But Keith, I will say one thing. I will say to New York Knicks basketball fans, I think you know, they will travel with that team even during the regular season. I when I was covering the Wizards, well, everybody kind of took over that arena,
Yeah, that's true.
unfortunately for them. But I mean, Sixers fans would take that stadium over, but they do travel well.
They do travel well, but the thing is, my thing is, are you going to allow them to do what they did in the playoff? Now, first of all,
Right.
people shouldn't have been selling them all those tickets the way they did.
Yeah.
But are y'all going to allow them to come down here and do what they did? Like, are y'all going to do that?
Right. And that's on the Philly fan base. Now, again, we're not encouraging violence, but they came in here and they were talking trash. And then listen, we can talk about this. Yeah, they were like, this is my house. Whose house? The Knicks' house, So we'll talk about this a little bit later. But right now, I want to talk to you about what FanDuel is doing. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all Sundays on September 15th. Pre-game money line bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday, September the 12th, which was last night. So view your account page now to learn more about your boost. So just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sports book. Do that ASAP, as soon as you can. And Keith and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sixers your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Do it today, people. Definitely do it today. So, Mitch, here's the deal. So, when we look at the 76ers team, you have to say they get an A for what they did in free agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them about a 95.
Yeah.
Right.
Until proven otherwise.
And on paper. The one thing is the reason, and maybe a 90, maybe what I want to do is what they did was great, but the one thing that they didn't get was Nico Batum. Right. So you got away 95. So that was the points that they didn't get. Right. And when you look at it, you say to yourself, this team, what's the weakness? The power forward position, right? You need somebody like if you had Nico Batum, you were able to re-sign him, playing with Paul George and Embiid and all that. Oh my gosh, this lineup would be phenomenal,
right?
I mean, it would be phenomenal. But then there's reports coming out where Nico is saying he was torn, he was going back and forth, what have you, between going there. It's weird to me because sometimes you wonder, and I like Nico a lot, but sometimes you wonder, like, was he really torn? Because you went back to the team that traded you to the Sixers.
Right.
You were a little bit distraught when you were traded.
Right.
Now I get it. You had some family issues, a situation that you had to take care of in LA. Your kids go to school there, right? It's a great school that you have them in. You have a beautiful home there. You love the weather, this and that. But it's kind of sort of like you made your decision not to come back to Philly quick, fast, and hurry.
Yeah.
Like early on, Nico Batum's not coming back. he's going to re-sign the Clippers. So to me, it's kind of sort of like, I get it. You pick family over the Sixers. Being in California, LA over Sixers. I'm from Philly, y'all. I love Philly.
However,
However, if I had a crib in LA, I would
yeah,
rather live in the LA area just
yeah,
because of the weather, this and that. But the one thing is, though, he had an opportunity, better opportunity to win the championship here than he
mm-hmm.
did over there. My only thing is, I don't think the decision is as tough as he wants people to think it was,
Right.
because that, he was gone. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That decision came within 24, 48 hours of the beginning of the free agency period. Maybe about,
yeah,
yeah, he was up and out. He was on the first thing smoking. Um, yeah, I kind of agree with you. And if I'm Nico Batum and the championship really matters as much as you think it does, the Clippers have kind of taken a step back, and they'd already lost. PG was kind of, even before free agency started, you kind of knew that because PG wasn't going to get that fourth year out of Clippers, you knew he was going to be gone. So he was looking at a situation where the Clippers are going to be diminished. I don't care what people say without Paul George, they're going to be significantly diminished in the 24-25 season. And if he was really, if we're really torn between Philly, the way, the narrative is that I don't think he lost much sleep over it, because he signed on the dotted line to go back to the Clippers so quickly. There was no, I didn't sense that there was a back and forth. And again, even though Philadelphia hasn't won a championship in 40 some odd years now, I guess it's 41. The Clippers have never won a championship. They've never been a champ, and they have a history of being. I mean, God, from the Buffalo Braves to the LA Clippers, they've got a horrible history. So I don't think that he was. I mean, I understand it. You get to a point in your career where you're nearing the end, and like you said, I mean, you check marked all those things. Your family's out in Cali, you made millions and millions of dollars. You're comfortable out there. Why not make yourself most comfortable toward the end of your career? And I think that's what he opted for. Um, that's my feeling. And can I blame him? I don't know that I can blame him for that.
nah, you can't. You can't blame him. But at the same time, it's one of those things where he chose. Like here's the thing about it. He chose family over winning the chip, and you can't blame him. But the thing that people need to realize, the Clippers are the equivalent. It's kind of like the Nets in New York. Like the Nets were like is one of those teams that even when they're better, even when the Clippers have a better record than the Lakers, they still don't.
Second fiddle.
Still second fiddle. And like, like they way down there. Like people care more about the college football scene than they do about the Clippers. You know what I mean? Like in LA, it's all about the Dodgers. Then it's about the Lakers. Then USC football.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
We'll put them ahead of you.
By the time you get to that, like the Clippers and like the Rams, they don't even care about them as much. But the Clippers, they're down there with the with the Chargers, and they may even be below the Chargers. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
I mean, because it's like USC gets more love.
Yeah.
So
So you're telling me the Clippers are in the gutter?
Man, don't nobody care about out there. Come on, man. I got cousins, close friends, a lot of people that live out there, dude. They nah. I got one. I got my cousin's boyfriend, great dude. He likes the Clippers, and everybody clowns. Look, dude, let me tell you this about the Clippers.
That's Dwayne Wade's team, right? The dude from all those, not Dwayne Wade, the guy from who was the sitcom that spun off of the Cosby Show? Yeah.
Yeah, my man. Yeah. But look, let me tell you this about the Clippers. So this is how the people care about the Clippers. When the LA Times is a really big, good paper, big paper. But they don't really have a Clippers beat writer anymore. Like they had layoffs and they laid off the
Yeah.
Clippers beat writer and really didn't replace them. They did, but they didn't. So when they came to Philly for James Harden's first game back, they didn't even have a reporter here,
I remember
right?
that. Yeah.
And then get this. When your boy Paul George opted to play for the Sixers, that was a brief.
Really?
Come on, man.
Wow.
So, like,
Wow.
this is where he's going back to. Like, so it's like,
Yeah. But
you know what I
that,
mean?
that doesn't tell you what the lure of Los Angeles does for athletes, man.
Well, it just tells me that it's all about his family. Like,
Yeah.
because his kids are at a really good school, man.
Yeah.
A really good school. And, his wife had medical issues, stuff like that. So, things like that. So, yeah, it's about the fam, dog. It ain't about.
Shout out to him, man. You can't knock him
He's
for
trying to
that.
handle business.
Yeah.
So,
He's standing
yeah.
on it. So,
it ain't about the winning the chip with him. I tell you that it definitely ain't about that. So that's where he is. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But the Sixers, I tell you, they could have used them. They would have been.
oh, no doubt.
They would
Yeah.
have been it. They'd have been it. They'd have been it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about we're still, and I'm starting to feel that we can talk about it a little bit later. I'm starting to feel the power forward situation is not as dire. I don't feel it's as dire. They don't have a traditional power forward in that sense, but I don't think it's dire for this team. But right now, we want to talk to folks about BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn things as often as you like? Or is that something that was lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your quote back to school unquote era can come at any age. And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills, therapy is, and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and that's exactly what you want to be. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. Everybody can use somebody in their head. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba.
Do it today, people. Definitely
Do it
do
today.
it today.
Do it till the fluid gets hot.
So here's the thing, though. We talked about the power forward position, and you know what? I go a little bit back and forth, and I understand what you said. Is maybe might not be as dire a need as people think. When you look at today's NBA, you look at let's look at the Boston Celtics, for instance. So Jason Tatum is their power forward. He's a wing, but he's their power forward in that lineup. So what they essentially really start is they start 2 point guards, right? And Derek White and Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
And they're more like combos, but they're like, if you look on their roster, they're listed as point guards. So they start 2 point guards and they start 2 wings, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then they have a power forward / center in Porzingis when he's healthy, right?
When he's
So
healthy.
that's your lineup, but they won the chip.
Yeah.
And then you look at some other teams, and it's the same thing, right? So you say to yourself, if you're the 76ers, yes, do we want a power forward? Do we need one? That are we going to need one? Yes, we're going to probably need one in the playoffs to match up against people. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, the one thing that helps them out also is when you have a guy like Embiid, you know, it kind of alleviates certain things. Like the 76ers could go to a big lineup at times where they have Embiid and Drummond, and
Mm-hmm.
and Drummond could be the center, Embiid could be the four, and that will enable him to,
Yeah.
get
It was
threes,
no wiggle
Drummond can
jiggle.
grab rebounds, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options. And another thing that they could do that a lot of people don't talk about is like they're only going to have in the beginning of the season, they're going to have 14 roster spots.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right? So, with that being said, you have to realize they're going to be scouring the league to
Right.
see who on a team that's struggling has a legitimate power forward that they're willing to trade, right? For someone with an expiring contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's where KJ Martin comes in at, right?
Right.
Like he has a 2-year deal, but the second year isn't guaranteed. So what they could do is they can slot him in there. They can get rid of him, trade him rather, and they get somebody, and that person can hopefully, in their opinion, in their eyes, can fit in seamlessly and help them in the playoffs. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it would have been great to have Nico Batum, that
Right.
type of guy. But if you can get someone similar, right, who has proven that they are worth it, I think that the Sixers can be in good shape.
Yeah. Keith, I mean, it's we have really watched the evolution of basketball. The time when, I mean, your first point in this segment about about Tatum being being there for, and basketball has old heads from the old school. You just gotta let that thing go. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it no longer exists. I mean, with the Sixers, you have a definite five. You're going to more often than not, you're going to have, the three kind of remains the same. It's the slasher score guy. But when you have a guy like Jason Tatum, who's a superstar, and it works for you, you're going to get traditional basketball as we once knew it is kind of a thing of the past. And I think what it does, it speaks to the evolution of the game. I mean, you just look at the power forward position. Your boost legs built like an old school power forward. I mean, old school, 6'8", 270. He's built like maybe the defensive end that you'd like to have on a football team.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's going to be. And I think one thing that's going to be interesting with the 76ers, they, because they have such a dominant big, and a very dominant reserve big. Like when you mentioned them playing, I would really like to see that at the points, and I think you will, points in the season where you have Drummond at the five, the quote unquote five, and Embiid at the four. Um, but the one thing I do wonder about the Sixers roster, one thing I wonder how much small ball you'll be able to see out of it, because they're not really built. They can be a dominant team because of the dominant big. I think one of the things that will be very interesting that evolves is how will they play small ball? Who'll be their small ball five? Their four, whatever. So that's going to be very interesting. But I think the Sixers will probably be, if they're dictating the way the game is played, which they should, against mostly just about everybody on most nights. You probably won't see a lot of small ball unless they're cruising. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
probably.
I mean, but the thing is, their lineup is kind of like a small ball line. Well, the way their starting lineup is, you know what I'm saying? That might be. I mean, you can look at it as a small ball lineup, the starting lineup. And the reason what I'm saying, well, I shouldn't say small ball lineup, but an undersized outside of Embiid.
Outside of Embiid, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, let's face it, in the playoffs, you shrink your bench and you go with the best lineups that you can
Mm-hmm.
have, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be. I don't know. They'll be fine. My only thing is, and I keep saying this, is to me is more of an age factor than anything, and to me the age thing is really the unknown to me.
It
Like,
is. It is.
that's what that is. Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to be able to produce because they're older? To
And
me,
just think if they brought it real quickly, if they had brought Nico, that would be another old guy. You know what I mean?
yeah, true, true,
Another old guy.
true. You're right. You're right. But hey, y'all, we just want to thank you for making Locked On 76 as your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On NBA podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NBA in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank y'all for listening and have a blessed day. Peace.
Have that blessed day today. Do it today.